What is the best way to plan for personalization? As in, how does the company plan for it exactly?
Yeah, that's a $1 million question. No, this is where the understanding of those companies, professionals around personalization, it really matters, right? Are they looking at it like a quick fix or a band-aid for users who are already suffering from some sort of experience-related issues, or they are taking, which means that it makes it very tactical, right? In a sort of a way, because they are sort of reacting to some issues. The other way is that you can think of it like a strategic initiative. Okay? So this is one perspective. After you have decided this perspective, the plan goes something like this. First, you always think of the goal, right? Which metric or which KPI you want to influence through personalization.
Okay.
Generally, it's recommended to start with one goal and not throw too many in, because it gets harder and harder to simultaneously accomplish more than one goal. It's very complex. Suppose you say, okay, I want to optimize engagement, conversion, and retention. That's a very difficult thing to do out of the box. So I would recommend start with a goal, one goal. Then you also look at data collection, because if you don't know, if you go back to the idea of contrast between customization and personalization, personalization is more of a proactive, almost we can say gamble, right? It's a proactive thing, which means it depends upon observation and inference. So therefore, data collection becomes imperative. You need to be able to collect data required to be able to study your users and come to a conclusion. This is what makes sense probably for users. So for you to even come up with a hypothesis, you need enough data. So that's the second part. And here it can be from many different sources. It can be what is typically called your own captured data, right? First party data. It can also be data that you augment from other sources. So that's the data collection aspect. Then segmentation. You use all that data. You begin to see some patterns in that data. So it's very good to segment first before you personalize. This is something that it deserves to be called out explicitly. That segmentation must be done before you get into personalization, because otherwise you will not have a good way to think of it. It becomes too complex. Because imagine if I'm dealing with a million users,
Right.
and how can I now even begin to process that statement? Oh, I've got a million people to personalize for. Right? It's a really, really complex thing. Maybe AI can do that really well, but if a planner begins to think of it, it makes sense to say, well, there are a million users, but they fall into these 8 or 7 different segments. Then I can get more specific about each segment.
Okay.
Right? So segmentation is very important. And then you of course have to decide, okay, which of these aspects of the experience I need to personalize. The ones that we spoke about, content, UI, etc. etc. And now comes the big question. I've collected data, I've segmented them. So how do I turn this data into those variations or personalizations? Is it some sort of rule-driven thing where a human being is going and putting some rules in, or is it I'm leaving it up to the wisdom of an algorithm or some sort of an AI and a tech stack to be able to figure out, okay, Kaustuv needs to see these recommendations, Casey needs to see these recommendations. So that could be algorithm, or it can be, some cases algorithms work better, in some cases I don't think algorithms will become overkill. And the last most important one is, because it's something that you are predicting your customers or your users will like, testing and learning, in other words, an iterative loop becomes absolutely imperative to toss in. Otherwise, you are going to trap yourself in your own thinking, and you'll be like needlessly convinced about what you thought is good for your users. So these are all the aspects that one must cover in a plan.